G'day guys, it's Jake here. Today I'm going to be running you through a quite large video, and it's going to take you in depth into how to manage and administrate Office 365. So we're going to run through a bunch of different things in here, and I'll leave timestamps down below with references to what I'm talking about. And if you want to skip ahead, click on one of them. If you're looking for something in specific, it'll be down there, timestamps down below. So anyway, let's get into it. So first off, we're going to run through how to actually log into Office 365, or as it's going to be known in the near future, or maybe even now if you're watching in the future, Microsoft 365, because they're phasing out the name Office 365. So let's just refer to it as Microsoft 365. So if you go to admin.microsoft.com, used to be portal.office.com, but we can go to admin.microsoft.com and we'll log in with our Microsoft 365 administrator account. So this is my test administrator account. You just log in, username and password. This background is a custom background, it's not the default one. I'll leave a link into how to change that down below. I've made that in a previous video, so we're not going to tackle that today. But let's go sign in. I've got multi-factor authentication, so it actually sends me a text message with a code when I go to log in. It'll pop up and say, do you want to reduce the number of times you are asked to sign in? You can make it not show the message again, and you can select yes or no. I'm going to select yes, even though I'm in a private browser, it's not going to remember it, but you can just select yes or no, whatever fits. So here we are. This is the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So you can see up here, we've got our business name, which is Contoso Electronics. That's our logo there, which is just the test thing from Microsoft. That's how it works. It comes up like that. And it tells you that you're in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. This is the home screen of the Admin Center. And it has a little dashboard down here, which gives you some stuff. So you can see here's some stuff for Microsoft Teams. Here's a shortcut to user management, Office 365 software, and your service health. So if there's problems, it will show up here in the service health. As you can see, we've got 4 advisories currently, and you can click on it and see what the current advisories are. So we can see here there is some service degradation for Exchange Online, OneDrive, SharePoint, and some other stuff there. Let's just go back though. So you also have the message center here. That gets a lot of messages, every single update, all sorts of different stuff. It all gets pasted there when they're doing updates and changes. It puts it in the message center. So you can go through the message center and read the messages as they come out. Or if you're the administrator, you usually get an email, I think like once a week. It comes quite often anyway, with all the new updates and new features and whatnot. And down here you've got your user reports and some training guides and some stuff on your billing. Now you can customize this, like you can get rid of these things here, or you can add more by clicking add card, and you can add in whatever you've got here, and it'll, it's like if we add that, you can then drag it and move it around and put it on your dashboard and customize what you want to see. Or you can take things off by clicking remove. So first off, what we're going to do is take a look at the users and how to set up users and stuff in Microsoft 365. So on the left hand side over here, you've got your navigation panel, which you can shrink and expand like that. This is actually a cut down navigation panel. So when you first log in, it just gives you a cut down version. If you want to see the full navigation panel, you can click show all. And now we've got all of our normal stuff in the Microsoft 365 admin panel. And then you've got the different admin centers. Now we'll go into these different admin centers down the track. If you want to skip forward, like I said before, look down and there'll be the timestamps down below with the different bits that we're covering. So first thing we're going to do is take a look at users. When you expand out users, you've got active users, contacts, guests, and deleted. They're all pretty obvious, I think, so I won't explain them. So if we go to active users, you'll get a list of all of your active users, their username, and also what licenses they've got. So if you wanted to add a new user, you just go add user, put in the name, we'll call it test, and we're going to give it the username test. So if you have multiple domains, on this drop down here, you can change the domain. So you can see we've only got the default domain, which is the on Microsoft. So usually you'll have your tenant name, tenant ID here, .onmicrosoft.com, and that's the default name. When you add in a custom domain name, it'll show in there, and your default custom domain name will change. And when you go to add a new user, it uses your default one. And if you have multiple, you can just change it. Here you can set to auto generate the password or create your own password. So you can type it in. So I'm going to use my own password, and I don't require change. And you can send an email upon completion. So if you tick that, that's going to send an email to somebody with the username and password and details. So if we go next, you can then pick your data center here. So I am in Australia, so I'm going to pick Australia. So this will pick the country that you're in. Down here, you've got your licenses that are available. So it will tell you what licenses you have and if you can allocate them to people. So you can see here, I've got one Office 365 E3 license. I've got a Windows 10 Enterprise E3. I'm going to use a Office 365 E3 license. If you wanted to customize what they actually have access to, because the different licenses have different services included in them, you can go down here, turn them on, turn them off. I'm just going to leave them all on. But say you didn't want somebody to have Kaya Zala or the Microsoft Planner, you can turn that off and turn them on as you need. So then when you go next, you can then make this user an admin or just a normal user. So if you were creating a second admin, they've got different admin users here. So if you wanted somebody to only be able to access Exchange admin, you can do that, global admin, blah, blah, blah. If you want to know what the different things mean, you can hit this little I button there and it gives you the details of what's available. So this user is not going to be an admin. And then when we go finish, it gives you a review of what you've got. So you can see here, product licenses. If you've done something wrong, you can hit the edit button. Otherwise, hit finish. And that's going to create the user. If you wanted to show the password, you can hit show, but I'm not going to show you the password because, hackers. And also you can also create user templates. So you can give this a template name. So default template. And then you can save it. So if you had different people with different roles, different job roles, you can go in and save the template and then use it when creating new users and stuff. So I'm going to save that template just for fun. It'll spin around. Now my default template is saved. Close. So that is how to create a user. Pretty simple. So now what you can do as well with these users that you've created, let's scroll down to the test user that I just created. When you click it, you can actually get a bunch more options here. So here you can add aliases. So what an alias is another email account that you receive emails on. So say the test account is this account, but we also wanted this user to receive any emails that went to service. You can add that in, or if you wanted it to get any ones called notifications, you can add that in. So this sort of section here is to add different incoming email addresses to that user account. So when they send emails, they're going to be as test. They can only send as the test email account, but they receive emails on service, notifications, and test. But if they receive an email on the service email, which is the alias, when they go to try and reply to the email, it's going to come through as test. So we can save those changes. That's how to make the email alias. And if we go back, you can also change the roles, which like I said before is the administrator roles or just the user roles. You can also add in contact information down here. So in here, we can add more information. So let's say the test is the CEO of the fake department. And if I could spell, it would not come with a red line. The office is the Australian office. You can give them the office phone number, fax number, mobile phone, address, all that sort of stuff. So this contact information, when you set the information, it's going to be available inside of your Office 365 organization. So we'll just save them just for fun. So that's how you can add contact information to the user. You can also see here if they've got devices enrolled in Intune, they'll show up here. We don't have any devices in Intune, and we're not going to run into Intune at this point in this demonstration or lesson or whatever you want to call this thing. In this tab, we've got our licenses and apps. Straightforward. It's the same window that we've seen before when we created the user. So if you wanted to take things away from the user or add them into the user, you can do that in here. And we've also got more mail settings here. So in here, you can add like straight up mail forwarding, email forwarding rules, manage email forwarding. You can also set up automatic replies. What an automatic reply is pretty obvious. If somebody sends this user an email, it's going to automatically respond. So this is good for when people leave the organization. You can set up automatic replies and email forwarding. Then if anybody sends an email, it might get redirected to the new person who's taken up that job, and also send an automatic reply to the person who sent this user an email saying this person no longer works at the organization. You can also do other things in here, like, convert to a shared mailbox, and change mailbox permissions and stuff like that. If you want more in-depth mail settings, you do that in the Exchange Management Center, which is down here, which we'll go into in a little while. And you can also do OneDrive settings. And OneDrive is not set up for the user yet. As you can see, it could take 24 hours. We only just set this user up. They're not showing in there. Also in this pane, you can reset the password by doing that. There, reset password. You type in a new password and do whatever you need to do. And you can also delete the user or block sign-ins for the user. So say this account's been compromised for some reason, you just block the sign-in while you're looking into how that happens rather than delete the email. So that's basically the user pane. Down, another thing you can do from this user pane is go in and see the... You cannot actually. You used to be able to, in this pane, enable multi-factor authentication. This might be because we're in the new admin center. Let's just go back to the old admin center. And yeah, so you can also do multi-factor authentication here. So that just means when you go to sign in, it sends you a text message or you need to use the Authenticator app. So that's pretty basic. I'll put another video link down below about how to set up multi-user authentication. We won't run into that here. And let's go back to the new admin center. So if there's anything missing, you can turn up here back to the old admin center to the new admin center and change to dark mode if you want to do the dark mode. Do the show all here. Another thing you can do in here is make contacts, which, as it sounds, is a contact for your organization. You can also see guest users. So what happens with guest users is if people share, say, SharePoint files or OneDrive files, the person they've shared it with comes up in this guest user. So you'll be able to see who's got access into your organization in that guest user mode. So that's basically what you can do with users inside of the admin center. Let's touch on groups. So in Office 365, we've got a few different types of groups. So we've got your Office 365 groups, we've got distribution groups, and we've got mail enabled security groups, and I'm fairly sure there's another one. So let's go add group. Oh, and a normal security group. So your Office 365 group, what that does is when you join people to this group, they get a shared calendar, a like SharePoint shared space to put files and stuff, and also an email mailbox that everybody shares. And you basically create the group and then add people into the group, and now you have an Office 365 group. What will also happen too is Office 365 or Microsoft 365 will use these Office 365 groups when you create new Microsoft teams or teams or whatever you want to call them, like a team in Microsoft Teams. And that basically hosts all of that Microsoft Teams data. So when you create a new team, it'll automatically create these Office 365 groups, which you can see down here. They'll have a little Teams icon. So see that? This is an Office 365 group here with the team. And you can see that the team's name's Contoso. And here there's a Mark 8 project team. That's also a Microsoft Teams group. So that's how you can tell that they're a Teams group versus just a plain old Office 365 group. This Office 365 group there has no Teams associated with it, but it will have a SharePoint site in the back end and also a email box, and it'll show in your Outlook when you're a member. So that's what an Office 365 group is. Now, a distribution group is basically an email address that distributes that email to a bunch of people. So the distribution group is something that comes from the days of the Exchange server, which I'm guessing not many people roll out anymore because now we've got it in Office 365, but some people probably still do. But the distribution group basically means an email address that then distributes out to everyone. So let's say a inquiries at email. That may just send out to everyone, like 5 different users. So somebody sends to inquiries, it then sends a copy of that email to each person in that inquiries distribution group. And a mail-enabled security group has all the functionality of a distribution group, does the same thing, but you can also use it to set security permissions on files inside of OneDrive and SharePoint. And a security group is a group that you can use for setting permissions over stuff, but it doesn't have the ability to email. So this has both of these joined. Basically, a mail-enabled security group is both a distribution group and a security group. So let's create a group. We're going to create a distribution group just because we can. It's the same process for each of them. So let's call it inquiries. Let's go ask me anything, just for fun. And we'll copy that because it's going to ask me something. This is the asking group. So let's go that. And at this point, you can say whether it's only for internal use or external use. So if you want people outside of your organization to be able to send to this, you need to tick this button. If you do not tick that button and people send to this email address, it will not get it. They'll just get an NDR, which is a non-delivery report. If you don't know what that is, you know, when you send an email and it bounces back, like NDR email. Something similar to that. If you ever send an email and you get that, it says undeliverable, that's an NDR. And that is what's going to happen if you don't have this ticked. So next, you then create the group. So now it actually takes a little while for the group to appear inside of this, inside of the Office 365 admin panel. If you want to add the users into it straight away, you can do that by going into the Exchange panel, which I will show you a little bit later. I'll put the link down here to what time it is. I'll show the link on the screen or the timestamp of how to do it. Let's go to this distribution group, which is there. If you wanted to add a member after it's created, you can click on it, go members, and then we go view and manage members. This window here shows the members and you can filter down on members in there. But if you wanted to add a new member, you need to click add members. And let's just add a couple of people there. So there you go. That is how to add members into the distribution list. Nice and simple. And it's the same to add members into these other groups as well. You click members and then it shows you the members, view manage members, add members, type in what you want. So that's groups basically. Now there's one other thing that's, deleted group shows you the deleted groups. That's pretty obvious. The other thing is shared mailboxes. So a shared mailbox is a little bit different to a normal mailbox. What a shared mailbox is a mailbox that's accessed by multiple people, or it can be accessed by one if you only want it to one, but you can't send as a shared mailbox. So what the good thing about a shared mailbox is that you don't need a license. So with a normal mailbox, you need an Exchange license or an E3 license or an E1 license or some sort of Office 365 license that you more than likely need to pay for. Unless you're a non-profit and you're getting the donations, So there is a non-profit plan, which is either heavily discounted or a donation, so just free licenses. You need to pay for your normal mailboxes. But with a shared mailbox, you don't need to pay for them. So you can just add a shared mailbox here, and we can call it shared mail. So we can add the shared mailbox. Once again, this takes a while to actually show up usually, except for now. Now it shows up instantly. But yeah, so the shared mailbox, you create a shared mailbox. Now you can receive on this mailbox, you can move things around, you can delete emails and all that stuff, but you cannot send as a shared mailbox. That is the limitation, and that is why you don't need to pay for it. You also can't log in as a mailbox. Well, you can, but it's a little bit sideways, but normally you don't log in as a shared mailbox. So to add users to the shared mailbox, pretty straightforward. You go here and you add members. Click add members, tick the members that you want to add to the shared mailbox, and hit save. After adding people to a shared mailbox, it will take a while, but it just shows up in their Exchange account as a second mailbox. So just like you had 2 email accounts in your Outlook, you will then have 2 emails in your Outlook, and it will just magically appear. It doesn't appear instantly though. Sometimes it can take 12 hours and you might need to close and open Outlook again, and then it will show up in there. So if we close that, you can also add email aliases to a shared mailbox, the same sort of thing like you would on a normal mailbox, so multiple emails that all filter into the shared mailbox. Another good thing about shared mailboxes too is if you have employees leave and you want to archive their emails and you don't want to pay for them anymore, like, say the person leaves and they're no longer sending emails, but you still want it to go somewhere and you still want to keep those emails for record keeping, you can convert those users to a shared mailbox. So if we go into the active users and click on someone, you can see in here they'll show up a button on converting. It's around here somewhere. Must be in mail. Down there, convert to a shared mailbox. So if we wanted to convert Alan de Jong, say he's left us, we can click that, convert him to a shared mailbox. It will then do its thing, convert Alan de Jong to a shared mailbox, and free up the licenses he's using. So then you can either downgrade your plan or allocate those licenses to another user that is going to be using Office 365 or Microsoft 365. So, if somebody's been replaced and all of that, you can then just convert the person to a shared mailbox, allocate the licenses to a new person, new user, and it's all good. So that's basically the different types of groups, which is all pretty straightforward. Down here in settings, there's something that's useful is domains. So this is your actual domain. So as you can see here, we've got onmicrosoft.com, like M365, blah, 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 on Microsoft. That's my tenant ID. So that's my actual organization in Microsoft land. But usually you don't want to be sending as that. You will want to be sending as the same domain name as your website. So to do that, you go add a domain and then type in a domain. Let's say we say use this domain. Then it's going to go out and check it and ask you what you want to do to configure this domain. So as you can see, my DNS provider is Cloudflare. And to verify that I own this domain, I need to either add in a text record or change my MX record, which I'm not actually going to do. But that's basically it. Once you do that and run through the instructions, which typically they'll show you the instructions for your DNS host in here. So I can see that. If I click that, it's going to load up how to add a text record into Cloudflare. But that's not what I'm actually going to do. So it doesn't really matter, but that's where you'd add in your custom domain. So when you actually create your Office 365 or Microsoft 365 tenant and you want to add in your own custom domain that you own, this is how you do it. Once it's finished, it'll ask you to add in DNS records and stuff. But basically you just follow the instructions and it will do its thing. So let's go into the Exchange admin portal because everybody loves that. So down here in your admin centers, Exchange admin. So the Exchange admin portal is the part that controls all of your emails and your calendars and everything Exchange. So this is like a hosted version of an Exchange server. If you have an Exchange server and you log into the back end of the Exchange server, it looks the same. So you can see we've got our dashboard and same thing, different sections over the right. They also list them in here. So you've got all your different things you can turn on. So we can go in and see our mailboxes in here, and that's under recipients. As you can see, recipients, mailboxes, groups, resources. So if we click recipients, mailboxes, group, resources, so on and so on. So you can see, like I was saying with the group that we created before, in here in the groups, there should be, now I actually forgot what I called it. Oh yeah, ask me anything. So you can see here, even though it hadn't showed up in the in the Microsoft 365 admin portal, we've got it in there. And if I double click it, I can then add in the users in here. So I can add in members. When I click the plus, it will load up the different people. And let's say we'll add Brian Johnson. So once I hit save, that will add in there. You can also have the owners, and there's a bunch more options in here too. So if I wanted to add in another email alias, I can go test at, okay. And there you can see now I've got that email alias in there. Oh, I'm already using that for the account we created earlier. So I created the account called test earlier, so I can't use test. So we can get rid of it there. Anyway, you get the gist of it. And you've also got the other things here. So if you wanted to be able to send as, which it won't work because that's a shared mailbox, but it's still there. Save. Then it says completed successfully. So in the mailbox, you can see there's all our users that we have. And the user that we changed to a shared mailbox before should be down here in shared. So you can see Alan de Jong, we changed him to a shared mailbox, and there's the shared mailbox that we created earlier. And the contacts, if you have contacts, they're there. And these resources, tackle them in another one, but you can use them for like rooms and stuff. So another thing that's good in the Exchange Admin Center is your malware filter settings. Down here you've got your default malware filter, and you can turn this here. You can block attachments. You can try and block 0-hour emails, that thing. I like these settings here. You can add different things here, customize notifications and all that stuff. So, you know, if you get stuff blocked for malware, you can have things send notifications. And we've also got a spam filter, which is good as well. You can up and down the spam filtering, block and allow things. So if you wanted to whitelist things, you can block them in here, the allow list. Allow them in the allow list. Full domains that you want to allow. So if you've got a specific sender that gets caught as spam, you can add them in there. If you have a whole domain that gets caught in spam, you can add them in there. And same logic for block. In here, you can change what happens with your spam when it detects spam. So you can see here the threshold. So 1 is the highest, 9 is the lowest, the default 7. So if you find you're getting too much spam, you can increase it here. So just keep increasing, sort of decreasing the number, you know, making it more. And you can change how long things remain in quarantine. We can also say what to do. So if you want it, so if you think it's spam, you can change things here. You can add a prepend to the subject. You can delete the message. You can quarantine the message. Basically all those different things, whatever you want to do. Now this is something that's good, which they have moved since the last time I have been in here. Usually you go to outbound spam and set it, but they have moved it. They've put in this nice little thing here. We have moved it to the anti-spam page. Anyway, that is what it is. And in here, the quarantine, which is also in the Security and Compliance Center. So, advanced threats. Advanced threats is an additional license that you have into Office 365 or Microsoft 365, which I'm fairly sure I've already made a video on. Yep, I've already made a video on that, so I will link that below. But here's the video that I've already made, which you can run through that. But basically you set safe attachments, safe links. Now, mail flow. What the mail flow is you can set up rules of what happens when emails come into the organization. So if an email comes in, like let's have a look at what's here. So this one, this adds if the recipient is outside of the organization, we can append the disclaimer that says this email and attachments are intended for an individual. But yeah, we'll go into that another time. But basically mail flow rules allow you to create rules based on different things that do different things. So say an email comes in from a domain, it can automatically put something in the top saying this is from another person or from outside of the organization or something. You can also do signatures in here too. I don't like doing signatures through here. It's quite annoying and cumbersome, but some people do it, and each to their own. Also the connectors section. So this is where you create mail relays. So let's say you wanted to be able to send unauthenticated from your workplace. You would find the IP of your workplace. So let's say you go here from your organization's email server to Office 365, and you can then set the IP. So let's say 10.10.10.1, which isn't a real IP because that's an internal IP. But yeah, so if anybody sends from 10.10.10.1, it will allow it to just send straight through your Office 365 without actually using a username and password. And it doesn't, let's say, so that contains a reserved IP address. Like I said, it's not going to work because it's an internal IP address, not an external IP address. So you do need your external IP address, what Office 365 thinks you are sending from. But yeah, so basically it'll send the emails out of your organization, unauthenticated, use Office 365 as a relay, and then send it straight out. This is beneficial for, like, let's say scan to email on your photocopiers, things like that, or software that sends notifications. So you just set that, and then they can just send straight through this Exchange server. And the other stuff, we won't go through that today. But that's basically the gist around the Exchange Admin Center. There's a bunch of other stuff that you can do in here, but you know, that's the basic stuff. So if you want to go back, you can hit here and go to Admin, or you can go back and just close the window. So the next thing we're going to run through is how to actually add the email account into Outlook. So it's quite easy. If you open Outlook, the first time you open it, it's going to search for accounts. If you've got the account linked to your computer, so if you've logged in with the account, it'll just automatically find it. But if it doesn't find it, what we do is we put in, so it finds the account that's already linked in this case. We go connect. If it hasn't found the account, what will happen is you'll need to type in your email address and password. Okay, on that. So basically what will happen for don't have the account linked is you'll type in the email address and the password, and if it has multi-factor authentication, it'll make you put in your second factor. So if we say done, we then have Outlook linked to the computer. So some things that you might want to do when you first link your Office 365 account, you'll see it'll sync all your messages. By default, this focused mailbox stuff is on. In my experience, most people don't like it. I personally don't like it. So you can just go to the View tab and tick the focused inbox, and then that will disable that. Another thing that you should do is also set the email signature, which this is still syncing for the first time. Let's cancel that, we'll try it again. Go away. So here on your email, you notice there's no signature. So what you can do to add the signature is hit the signatures button and click signature, make a new signature, and then we go and we save it. So that saves that signature, so now it's available in here. But by default, we haven't set it to actually do anything. So if you want it to have the signature by default, you can select it here and here. So now it's on new messages and also replies. Hit OK. So now if we go to send a new email, so exit that, we've got that signature there. Another thing you can do too is if you have multiple email accounts, you can hit here, select the other email account and put on the different signature. So if you had 2 email accounts on this Outlook profile, you could have 2 different signatures as well to reflect the 2 different email accounts. So that's pretty simple. That's how to link it to Outlook. You'll notice here in Outlook you've got your mail and all of that stuff, your calendar. So this will sync your calendar, and also, you know how we had those Office 365 groups earlier with and also Microsoft Teams groups. So they'll show here how they have a calendar. They'll show there. And also if we go to all folders down here, you'll see here I've got an online archive link to this account. So if you have online archiving, that'll show there. Your contacts are here, mail, that sort of stuff. Also, another little trick is if you wanted to have 2 windows, you can right click and open the calendar in a new window. So now you can have your calendar and your emails opened at once. So that's basically how to connect Office to your Outlook on the computer. So you can also set up a second account, and that's quite easy. So if you want 2 accounts, if we go into the account settings in there and go new, it'll do the same thing, search for the account. And what you can do is type in the new account's email, hit connect, and then if the account's linked to the computer, like before, it'll just join up. But if it's unlinked, it'll pop up with a password field. So this is what I was talking about before when you put in an email account that's not attached to your Windows system. So it'll pop up a password field, and then if you type in the password, mine has multi-factor authentication on, so it needs to send me a text message. Just wait for that to come through, 466272. Hit verify, and now this part is a little bit tricky. So this is where it says allow my organization to manage my device. If you have that ticked, it's going to link this account to your Windows user. So it'll be in your account settings. So for the secondary accounts, I usually like to no, sign into this app only. So we untick that and we sign into this app only. So that just links the email account to this Outlook profile. It doesn't link the whole Microsoft 365 account to your Windows installation. So then we hit done. That's going to take us somewhere silly. We hit close. Now you can see it's not there yet. So how to actually get it there is if we close Outlook and we open it again, it needs to actually set it up for the first time. So as you can see, it'll go loading profile, and in a sec it'll say setting up the mailbox for your first use. So you can see it's retrieving the mailbox settings. So that's for the new account that I've just linked, the admin account. And there we go. So now we've got our Megan account here. Down here we've got our admin account, which we've just linked. And you can see here it's syncing through all of its emails and whatnot. And if you want to switch between the calendars, down here you'll have them both there. It'll show them there like that. If you want, you can overlay them as well by doing that and putting them both in one. Or the other thing you can do is just untick one and only show whichever one you actually want to see. So now that's only some of the stuff that you can actually do inside of Office 365 admin portal and some of the basic stuff that you can do. There's a lot more to it. There's heaps of stuff that you can do in Office 365, heaps of stuff to administer. Take a dive, jump in there. As you can see, I'm wearing a scarf. It's a bit cold out here in my shed where I do these videos. But anyway, if you have any questions, leave them down there. I'll try and answer them if I can. There'll be a bunch of other videos and stuff in the links down below on how to do stuff and different things to think about. And I'm sure you would have seen the cards through the video. But yeah, if you have any questions, leave them down there. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share the video to some people if you liked it and if you found it useful. Hopefully you did. Anyway, I'll see you next time.